G'day everyone, welcome back to another video. In the last one, I did my race recap from the World Champs in Abu Dhabi. This time I'm going to go through the stuff that led up to the race and then afterwards that made it the trip that it was and that led to my performance on the day. So I don't have a heap of photos and videos from it, so bear with me. There'll probably be a bit of my face up on the video and there's chapters to skip through if you're not interested in certain parts. But to start with, prior to the event, I was a bit concerned about the bike packing. It's been a while since I've travelled with a bike and I haven't had great success in the past. So I had to get some through axle mounts put on my old bike bag and then we got that sorted kind of last minute, but the bike was packed up pretty well thanks to the Napier family and it got there all in one piece. We had a nice flight from Launceston to Sydney, where we met James Barnes, and then some of the athletes coming out of New Zealand were on that same flight from Sydney direct to Abu Dhabi, which is about a 14-hour flight. Hadn't been on a long haul for a while. Luckily, Kate and I had 3 seats between 2, so we could spread out a little bit because I'm a terrible sleeper on the plane as it is, but managed to get a little bit of rest on the overnight flight in. We arrived at about 5 a.m. local time, picked up in a real fancy vehicle that fit heaps of bikes. It was massive, good setup, and we were supported the whole time from the MyWhoosh crew, so couldn't fault it. I don't think any other platform could put on what MyWhoosh did, and it was top notch from start to finish. Got to the hotel pretty full from all my plane meals. I think I had my share and then Kate's share of the crappy plane desserts, but not complaining here. So I arrived pretty full, but we went down to the buffet breakfast as we settled in just to check it out, and I topped up on a little bit. From there, there wasn't much planned for that first day. It was nice to have a bit of time to settle in, and we caught up with a bit of a nap. And then we met Phil Graves, who was probably the chief athlete coordinator. He had 40 trainers and mats, fans, all that kind of thing for all of the athletes to train on. Not only to train on prior to the event, because all the elite justos were obviously in the venue, ready to go. But then a lot of the athletes had the SRC race to back up on Sunday that they needed something to race on as well. So lucky enough there, we got sorted out with 40 Tax Neo 2s or something like that. I thought it was quite a shit trainer, to be honest. I was glad to see the back of it. I'm not sure if it just wasn't set up properly but yeah, I'm glad I was in the taper process and literally had to just make it through because super not smooth on my bike. I was just keen to get my bike on the trainer shifting well, and luckily when I did eventually get on the Justos in the venue, it was spot on as it had been shifting wise in the lead up because those tacks were shit. Probably wasn't even put on properly. I don't know. Anyway, settled in, did a bit of a training ride on MyWhoosh that afternoon. I had a moderate hit out. I joined at one of the events on there. There was some real people. There was some climbing. I did quite a bit, some tempo threshold work, a couple of little attacks to follow. Overall, I would have just called it like an unpredictable moderate ride. That was my last kind of intensity before the race, with then the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. Pretty easy overall. So it's good to get that out of the way. Kate was getting set up with a bike as well, because at this stage she was the reserve, being 24th place from the semi. So MyWhoosh sorted her out with a bike for the trip, which was good. She didn't have to travel with one. So we got that before the end of the day. In terms of eating and stuff, like where we were, it wasn't super simple. There weren't heaps of restaurants around, but we'd been recommended that their equivalent of Uber Eats was like super smooth. It's called Talabat. And yeah, you could basically choose whatever. Delivery fees were bugger all. So I think I loaded up on a pizza before bed, and yeah, Kate and I were cooked. So we were asleep by 7:30. I think that's 7:30 would have been 2:30 a.m. local time in Oz. So we did well to stay up as long as we could, but obviously that then meant waking up pretty early on the Thursday. Thursday, there weren't too many commitments that we were locked into. The main one was that we had a media shoot at about 10 a.m., I think. Each rider went in one by one, got asked a series of questions from the organisers, and then got some photos taken. You would have seen them probably on the LEDs on the race, some of those big ones that we had in the background, and then on the front of our pods. But probably one of the highlights of the trip for me was just meeting the athletes over breakfast. So it was normal to sit in the breakfast area for 3-4 hours, chat to some of these faces that, you know, raced for years now, but hadn't actually met. So that time was special, just catching up with people, figuring out who you were mates with, and all that kind of thing, and just topping up on breakfast. And yeah, that was awesome. So really valued the time that we had there, and I know at the end of the trip those athletes were feeling super kind of together in comparison. So yeah, did the media shoot. Kate and I went to the mall just to check that out, to do something minor for the day. 48 hours out from the race. Want to do a little bit, but you want to keep off your legs as well, because the temperature outside is pretty hard to live in. So yeah, we didn't want to do too much there, but didn't want to sit in the hotel all day. Went up to the pool to finish the day off. There were some nice views from the pool of some of the city sky. So that was cool. I'll add a picture here of that. Tried to stay up in the night because we didn't race till 8:40 p.m. on the Saturday. So I was trying to stay awake, but honestly, 7:30 came. Kate was asleep. I was struggling so bad. But then the Zwift results came through from the last World Series race. Lots of annulments. That kind of woke me up to see some of the riders that got annulled, which was a bit of a shame to see, especially due to after their performances on Saturday. Clearly, a bit of a middle finger up to the analytics team for those annulments. So I ended up bumped up to third in that Zwift race, so a bit extra prize money there for me. But I don't like that the riders are getting annulled. Went to sleep at about 9:30. Then Friday, so I went down to breakfast, same as usual, catching up with people, talking a bit of shit. Today we had to go to the UCI briefing, so basically we all went out on a bus together to the briefing. The UCI, Jacob Fraser and the commissaire were out there. They went through all the things we had to know for the big day, answered any questions. As a racer that's used to riding in the garage, there's a lot of little things that little specifics that you used to in your own setup. So there are a lot of good questions from the athletes that kind of helped us figure out what was going to be those exact specifics on the day. So it's good to kind of clear the chest there and feel comfortable that the setup's going to be something pretty smooth and that we know what it's all about. So that's pretty cool. We didn't actually get to see the venue, so we're starting to see some Instagram stories of something that looked pretty cool, but we weren't actually in the specific the hall at that stage. So got back, had a little bit of lunch, went up to the pool just for a little bit to kill some time. By now, the weigh-in's starting to get a little bit closer, so you're starting to think about putting your best foot forward for that weigh-in. Now, normally for the racing that I tend to do, the weigh-ins are 2 hours out. I tend to like the 2 hour out weigh-in. For most of the races this season, it just means waking up and then jumping on the scales, and then pretty much hydrating, fueling up a little bit and that kind of thing. So I tend to be 64 kilos, sometimes 63, depending on the day with that kind of setup. And then by the time you fuel up and hydrate, you're probably an extra kilo and a half more. But for this one, they decided that the weigh-in was going to be 12 hours before the race. So there's pros and cons to any time that's going to be. Given that it's 12 hours out, you get a lot of time to refuel, rehydrate before the race with no impact. So I think it was pretty common thought that these weigh-ins would be pretty low, given that you had 12 hours out. So I like the 2 hour weigh in because you just, if you do anything silly, it kind of reflects in your own performance. But at the same time, the 12-hour weigh in's good because you really get to load up on food, fuel, drinks to make sure that you're strong for the race. I couldn't stay awake past 8:30, so yeah, I was just going to hope for the best that I'd be awake the next day at race time. I normally race well in the night, but I just the time difference was killing me. I started to get a sore throat on the day before the race, so that was good. I'm here second guessing myself, like, am I getting sick or have I just not drank as much today? So wasn't too sure there, but woke up the next morning pretty early again, and the sore throat was a bit worse. So I was like, this isn't ideal, but it is what it is. Weighed in 61.5 on the official scales, and then within a couple of minutes we're back up at 63. Had some good hydration in the backpack with me. Boys then went to breakfast and just smashed it, loaded up, good times. What we got? 11 hours to the race. Rolled up to the hotel room. We were heading out to the training, to the venue for some training with our bikes on the setup to practice what it was going to be like. So got a bit of a tour around the athlete area there, felt comfortable, grabbed our bottles, towels, heart rate monitors and that, and we got escorted up to the stage for a bit of a practice. Bike, it was good to be on the bike. It was shifting smoothly, just felt nice, which was good. Did a couple of little sprints just to see how the front wheel block would be with that, because the trainers were bolted down. To start with, really slippy, so I had to kind of find a sprint technique where I was very stable. After 3 little sprints, I found a technique that was pretty good. I just did a comparison of the resistance versus what we had at home, just to make sure that I was feeling the same, because I spin out a bit with my low RPMs. I can't really sprint over 90 RPM. And I was in my biggest gear in the sprints at home, kind of wishing I had like a 56 instead of a 54 chainring, but that felt exactly the same. So I knew that the resistance on the Justo 2 was going to be the same as what we had at home. So just little things like that, because I was really well rehearsed in how the trainer felt on the different courses at the different speeds, knowing that, ideally I'd probably want a 56, but I didn't really have time to set it up. And given the course profiles and where the points were, I wasn't too fussed about that, because most of the points were going to be given out on top of a hill. Went back to the hotel. By this stage, the throat had turned into a headache. I was feeling tired. It's 2 p.m., but I was like, oh, no, the worst thing I could do is try to have a nap here, because I might wake up sick, like proper sick. So pretty much just hoping that I'd be fine, and I hadn't just, had a whole year of being not sick and then roll up race day, and then, your performance is impacted because you got sick 24 hours before the biggest race of the year. I watched Kate do a race, so that kind of took my mind off it a bit. And I knew I wouldn't know until I started climbing the hill in the second race, so I was starting to worry a bit. But not much you can do at that stage. Just got to do your best. Went out to the venue at about 5:30. I've honestly, all day I was just drink, like non-stop. Constantly chipping away at some sandwiches, bananas, gels, that kind of thing. Got out there. Still wasn't really like excited or focused or like in the zone as such, but I kind of knew what I had to do. Went out there, we got to watch some of the women's race, and then I started to kind of lock in on my processes. It was awesome to see the close battle in the women's. Kate was in the crowd, so it was good to see her before the race. And then went back, started a bit of a caffeine load before the event. We got taken out on stage about 45 minutes beforehand, maybe 30 minutes, and then did the warm-up. Typical, like, as soon as you're like in high adrenaline setting. Like you can do 2 pedal strokes and you feel warmed up, like compared to normal. So that was the case. Didn't take much to warm up at all. Position the fans in the right spot, which was important. We had 2. You have to get them in the right spot for standing, which is where you do most of your high level power. So sorted that all out. Made sure the hydration, fuel, towels are all in the right spot. I kind of locked my towel away under my spokes because the fans were blowing it back in my way. So I basically decided that I wouldn't even use the towel in the first 2 stages until like post-stage kind of thing. And then it would be the 3rd stage where I'd try and like maybe use the towel a couple times. But I got super hot in stage 3. But stage 1 and 2 were fine. Basically, the race recap is live. So if you want to supplement this video with what happened in the races for the next 30 minutes, then feel free. But it all went to plan. Might put up some Strava numbers. I think I did 800 watts for 32 seconds in the sprint. For me, it was a long sprint because I went very early to get that speed up, as you would have seen. Not too bad. And then in the second race, I did 472 watts for 4 minutes 15. I think at home I've done that power for like just over 5 minutes before. So really happy with that, given that I already had that 30-second in the legs. I never felt on the day that I had magic legs, like, you know, those days where things are just, perfect. I didn't feel like I had them legs. So to actually manage to have, like, you know, legs for 4.5 minutes that are as good as numbers that I've hit for over 5 minutes is spot on. And at home, like the Aethos tend to always be just a little bit under the Kickr as well. So, you know, it's probably on par with the biggest numbers I would have ever done on the Aethos for that time period, which is where you want to do it on the world stage and also when you are 61 kilograms in game. So 7.75 watts a kilo for 4:15, which is pretty good. In the semis, I did 7.4 for 5 minutes. So really good. That got me 4th up the comm behind Jason Osborne, Lionel, and Bjorn. So world champion times 2, world champion, and Lionel, who's basically the GOAT. So can't complain being 4th up there. Last race, not much in terms of impressive numbers, but we put in a solid performance, as you'll see in the recap. Yeah, I'm not sure if it could have been better. I mentioned a few things about the unfamiliarity with the trainer there, but everyone's on the same one, so you can't really complain about that. It was a late night. By the time we got back to the hotel and got our bikes, it was after midnight. Went to Domino's, which was about a KOA with some of the crew. Again, good to chat, good to unwind after a big event, good to be happy and just really satisfied with the performance and continue to meet these awesome people. So that was good. Sunday, woke up feeling shit, headache, throat. Not probably as bad as I thought I might, but yeah, I was definitely sicker than the day before. So I kind of hid it a little bit from everyone, but Kate certainly knows that I was struggling a little bit on the Sunday. Kind of wasted the day a little bit in the end because I was tired and felt shit. So I didn't get to do as much as we kind of wanted to. The main thing on the agenda on the Sunday was the dinner. So we all went to a celebration dinner, had a couple of beers. At Yas Marina, the F1 circuit. So just got to talk some shit with everyone about the whole event. It was really good to catch up with everyone. But yeah, a lot of tired people by that stage after the late night the night before. Would have been good to do something on the Sunday. Like I didn't ride outside in the lead up just because I didn't want to take any risks. Hot outside, like didn't want to cook myself. But like ideally on the Sunday, would have went for a ride outside just to, you know, see some of the cool places that we ride on MyWhoosh. But didn't get a chance to do that because I felt shit and I couldn't be bothered riding my bike on the Sunday. Packed it up and got it ready for travel. But that's something I'd like to do next time, particularly after the event. Last day was the Monday. We rolled up, wanted to do something today, even though I still felt a bit shit. It was our last day. We teed up to go out to the MyWhoosh studio with James and Kate to have a chat with Cy and Matt Smithson for their Inside the Ride podcast, which you can see. Might post a link up somewhere, but that's their recent episode. We talked about the worlds. It was a good chat. Cool to see the little MyWhoosh studio where they do all their kind of testing and podcasts in. We also went to the Grand Mosque, so it was good to do some touristy stuff there on the final day and check out some of the must-do things in Abu Dhabi. Hopefully we'll be back and be able to do more of that in the next trip. Now we're a bit more familiar with it, but for us it was mostly about just catching up with those people we'd never met before, and that was probably always going to be the main component of the trip anyway. So from there it was the long travel back to Tassie. Yeah, we got to the airport. We were a little bit delayed, but it didn't really matter for us because we had a few hours between our connections. We had full flight, no room, so that was a bit of a shitter. Tough one, didn't sleep too much. I was so tired that I actually slept a little bit, which was okay. Kate struggled, I know. We got to Melbourne, got the bike, put it through, back on the plane to Launceston, all through to Launceston, picked up from the airport by Mum and my sister, and by the time we got home it was about midnight. Pretty much went straight to bed. So that was that. Slept okay considering. And then got my bike out the next day, and the rear seat stay is cracked in two places about 10 centimetres apart. So that's fun. Not really sure what the next step is there. We've contacted Etihad. A few mates know of some carbon guys. I've talked to Kyle and the crew, who I think are talking to Specialized, but it's a real shame. It's disappointing. Like, I've travelled with my bike overseas 3 times now, and I'm like, this is obviously the most serious damage, but I haven't been able to get home without something being fucked. So I seriously hate travelling with a bike. Next year after this, I'd literally just be happy to try and get one off MyWhoosh, because it's bloody annoying. Now I've currently got my old bike on a different trainer. It's a shit setup. Good thing I'm in a bit of a break, so it doesn't really matter. But that bike is too small. Can't stand up properly without my knees bloody hitting it. Like, I've really adapted my technique a lot this year on my new bike, which is bigger, fits well, it feels smooth. And now going back to the old one really makes me think, how the hell did I actually have the good results that I did on that bike? Because my Specialized has been awesome to me. And yeah, I miss it now. So I'm not really sure what the next step is there. Hopefully it's not too costly. But yeah, it's a real pain in the ass to finish the trip on that note after what was an awesome trip. So yeah, awesome experience. MyWhoosh, they were so good. Can't fault it. If you saw the photos, you'll know how sweet the setup looked. I know there's some broadcasting things to the people at home that probably could be worked on, but knowing the team, they'll take that feedback on and they'll roll with it and really improve that next time, because the event itself was just, went off without a hitch. Just honestly couldn't fault it. The pods were just next level. I don't think I can imagine being at a live event like that with that level of kind of sophistication and without problem like it was. So nothing negative to say in that regard about the event. Hoping to be back next year. Hoping to be in the Middle East for a few competitions next year would be the dream. So I think that's about it from this one. Another long one. I'm not sure if anyone will get anything out of this, but I'll put some chapters in so you can skip through and take out of it what you want to. But cheers for all the comments on the previous videos. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. The subscriber numbers and the views are going up, so it's good to see and really appreciate it. Thank you.